Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Florida-friendly landscaping educational program. This one is an impromptu program. I just got back from vacationing in the Great White North, and I came home and looked around, and I thought, wow, got pretty cold here too. So I invited my friend, Dr. Lester, to come and talk this afternoon so we can put this recording up on Facebook this weekend, because I know you're going to be eager to get at your yard this weekend. But we want to talk to you first before you do that. So welcome, Dr. Lester.
Good afternoon, Lily. Thank you so much.
Yes. And here are our emails. In case you have any questions, feel free to email us. Oh, I didn't fix that. I don't know what that LillyB at Hernando County is about there. I always forget to fix that, but these are our emails. Really, really, really the best way to get a hold of us. I have some people trying to contact me through Messenger on Facebook. I might see it eventually. You know, if you want expeditious answer, please email me. My email follows me on my phone wherever I go. It's at my desk. I don't really get pop-ups because I'm not always signed into that Facebook page. So, but Bill and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what happened while I was gone. What did happen while I was gone, Bill?
We got a freeze, which is totally normal, but maybe not so much for people that have only lived here in Florida for a couple of years. And the problem is maybe you moved here and you haven't seen a really bad freeze yet because we don't get them necessarily every winter, although we have for the last couple of years at least a freeze or two. A lot of people move to Florida and they think that all of Florida is Miami.
Hmm.
And even though it did not get to freezing in Miami, it did here. And for people who live further north in Florida, up in the Panhandle and Jacksonville area, it got a whole lot colder than here. So Florida is a very big state, a lot of diversity with temperatures, especially during the winter. And we've gotten a whole bunch of phone calls from people all asking, should I prune? Should I do this? Should I do that since the freeze? And well, do you want me to share what we generally tell everybody to do?
Well, let's start from the ground up.
Okay.
I got back and I noticed everyone had a golden lawn. Now, where I was, I remember waiting till 3 o'clock in the afternoon or so it could get to be in the 20s so I could take a walk. But I got all kind of pretty pictures of the snow, but then I came back, you know, fully expecting us to be full on in spring. Although I did hear there was going to be freezes. I did hear all the way down into Lee and Collier County, they were expecting a freeze, which is pretty unusual for them. So I got back and noticed my neighbors, and of course me, but I don't mind as much, had what I call a golden lawn. So let's start from the ground up. You can start with the don'ts and then just go from there.
Sure. Here in Central Florida, the vast majority of people have either St. Augustine turf grass or Bahia turf grass, and both of them are warm season turf grasses, which means they turn green and they grow and they look just great from the spring all the way through the fall. During the winter, they go dormant, and when it goes down to freezing, your lawn will turn brown, but it's not dead. It's still alive. The roots are still alive, and it will turn green and come back in the spring when the days get longer and the weather gets a little bit warmer. A lot of people think that to fix their brown lawn, if they just water it more and put down fertilizer, that's going to make it green again. And for right now, that is not going to work. You're just wasting your time, you're wasting your money, water, fertilizer. What will make it turn green and come back is spring weather and warm temperatures and regular rainfall.
And longer
I
daylight
know
hours.
that we have some people who live in homeowners associations, and you may feel that you're under pressure from neighbors to have a beautiful green lawn. It's not going to happen, and it's really not happening with your neighbor's lawns this time of year either. It's not natural. The grass is supposed to go dormant during the winter, and if we have a freeze, it will turn brown, but that's okay. It's still okay. It'll still come back in the spring.
So when I was just in Pennsylvania, we did have a day or two when it got up in the 40s, and then we got some rain. So a lot of the snow that was there, you know, not all of it disappeared, but a good bit of it disappeared before it snowed again and covered everything up. But during that one day, I was able to walk across my sister's yard instead of in 8 inches of snow on her grass, on her green grass. Now, why was that, Dr. Lester?
Because people have totally different types of turf grass up north. It might be ryegrass, it might be some type of fescue, Kentucky bluegrass. None of them grows down here for longer than a few months. You can plant a lot of them over the winter. When it warms up in the spring, it will die and go away and never come back again.
So they have cool season grasses,
Yes, they do.
whereas
Totally
we
different
have,
types of grass.
whereas we have warm season grasses. Yes, I have seen those cool season grasses in August when it hasn't rained in a few weeks look pretty much like this picture that we're looking at now. And what about mowing it? What would you do? What should we do about mowing our lawns? Because probably what's going to come up now is not the turf, but we may get some weeds trying to pop up through.
Yeah, the weeds always seem to find a way to survive and stay green. So your weeds, some of your weeds will be green, your turf grass won't be, and a lot of you may hear from your lawn service that they need to cut the grass really, really short to cut out the brown stuff. Don't do that. Very, very bad for your grass. Continue cutting your grass, depending on what kind of grass you have, anywhere from 3 to 4 inches high the entire year. The brown blades will get pushed out by the new grass coming in, so the brown will go away all on its own. But if you go out there and cut it way too short to try to get rid of the brown, that may end up killing your lawn, whereas the cold weather didn't.
Okay. And speaking, you mentioned fertilizing, and fertilizing is just not a good idea for any plants this time of year, mainly because fertilizer can stimulate new growth, which would be very sensitive to frost damage. But also we are under a fertilizer ordinance here in Hernando County, and this is the way it reads right now, is that between January 1st and March 31st, homeowners are not allowed to fertilize their lawns. You may fertilize your banana trees, you may fertilize your vegetables, things like that, but you can't broadcast fertilize your lawn during that time frame. So there's another reason you don't want to do it. But as you always say, Dr. Lester, what do you say about if you have a company who comes to your house and is fertilizing during that period of time? Now they are allowed if they have a license to do so and they use slow release. But what do you feel about it in general?
Services should not be putting down fertilizer on lawns during the dead of winter. So that the whole time, January, February, and March, your lawn does not need fertilizer. It won't make use of the fertilizer. It won't take up the fertilizer. So if you do have somebody putting down fertilizer and not something else, they're just wasting their time and money, and probably your time and money also.
And I know there's been talk for a couple years now, probably, of changes in this ordinance. It hasn't changed yet. And I know you're always taking, you have to go talk to the county commissioners when they want to discuss changing it. So
Yes.
are they going to make it less strict when they do make the changes?
No, over time, the rules for when it comes to turf fertilizing are just going to get stricter, not looser. And my
Okay.
guess is with yard irrigation, the restrictions are only going to become tougher.
Got a lot of people moving here every day. We have to manage our resources. So let's say, I think all of us have, I've only got back Tuesday afternoon and I've been hitting the ground running with work since then. So this weekend I'll go out and really examine my crispy plants out there. So are they dead? Do I need to worry about them? What's happening there?
A lot of plants were just damaged by the cold weather, and they will recover and they will grow back. but it's all on a case by case basis. It is possible, and many plants, when we get a freeze, do die all the way back to the roots and completely die. They don't come back. Most of them, especially the woody plants, will just get damaged back to a certain point, and they will grow back during the spring and summer. Florida soil does not freeze like it does up north, so many times the roots survive even though most, if not all, the above ground plant parts will die. So many plants will grow back from the roots in the spring. Um, our biggest piece of advice that we give to people when it comes to, is my plant dead? Is it alive? Is it going to recover? What do I do? Do I prune it tomorrow? Should I prune it yesterday? We tell everybody just be patient. At this point, right now, it's only the middle of February. There's a good
Mhm.
chance that we're going to get some more cold weather. You need to be patient and wait until anywhere from early March to middle of March to be able to say for sure whether your plant is going to survive or not, and then make a determination at that point.
And we decided kind of last minute to put this together for you. So these are UF photos that I'm using. So don't yell at me for having elephant ears. They're not mine. It's just a good demonstration photo. Maybe over the weekend, I'll get photos of my poor firebush and my hibiscus, but I know the firebush will come back.
Well,
I
I
know
still
that.
have some bananas in my backyard, and they are completely brown. And
Yeah.
I have no idea if they're coming back or not. And I'm probably not going to know for a little while. So
Yeah,
patience
we'll
is
we'll
very
get to
important.
that. We'll get to that at the end of this. Oops. So pruners, stay away from the pruners. You've been hinting at that now, this weekend, I was just outside for lunch. It's like 75 degrees out there and sunny. And we're going to be so itchy to clear all that dead stuff and that ugly stuff away. But what is the advice that we give on that?
Well, this picture here is a little deceiving because that entire plant is nice and green,
Yes.
and everybody seems to absolutely hate the brown on their hedges, their bushes, their individual plants, and they want to get rid of it. But the problem is, if you go out there and prune your plants right now, one of two things is going to happen. One is we're going to get another freeze, and the brown dead part that's on the upper part of the bush now actually helps to insulate and protect the inner stem and the roots if we get another freeze. And like you said earlier, when you prune a plant, it stimulates it to start growing. So if
Mhm.
you go out there right now and let, like the bush in the picture here, prune that back, get it all nicely shaped. In a week or two, it's going to start sending out new shoots and new growth. If a week after that we get a really bad freeze, you're going to lose a lot more of that bush. You may actually lose the entire bush, whereas had you just left it alone and been patient and waited until all the freezes were over to take action, it would have survived.
Yes, I like that idea. It's really interesting to me that nature does that. And what would happen, in the woods if nobody was managing the plants? The frozen parts, the dead crispy parts would
Mm-hmm.
protect that new growth of the plant trying to regenerate. Now, this is only February 11th. And as I mentioned, it's 75 degrees and sunny outside. You've lived in Florida more than 2 weeks. If you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. Our danger of frost used to steadfastly be over on March 15th. But in the past 10 years or so, you and I have seen some pretty hard freezes on April 1st, April 3rd. So that is why I put this period of time, March 15th through April 5th, somewhere in there. You're probably pretty safe from the danger of frost being over for the year. And that is the best time to go out and prune. You're going to do it before that. I know everybody out there will do it before that because they won't be able to stand it, but just know the chances that you're taking. So we always say, live with the ugly.
Well, you could roll the dice and go out there and prune it right now and bet or gamble that we're not going to get any more cold weather. And I would be thrilled if the weather stayed like this until the end of winter. I'd like it very much. But if you do that, keep in mind things, Mother Nature may not cooperate the way you want her to, and we may
And it
get
is
surprised. It
okay.
happens.
It's okay if your yard looks like it's winter. We're in Central Florida, as you mentioned, we're not in Miami. We're not in the Keys, we're not in Homestead. We're in Central Florida. Those of us from Central Florida up through North Florida, we have seasons here.
Kind
And
of.
we have winters. I wear long sleeves a lot of times through the winters. It's okay to look like winter. It's okay if your yard looks like winter. But that doesn't mean you can't do anything. Doesn't mean you can't get out there. If you're itching to be out in your yard and do something, there are things you can do. And I love these big freezes because the plants that have been zapped are almost always going to come back. Not so sure about those hibiscus because they're kind of new. We're going to wait and see. But something you can do is it freezes everything back and it freezes a whole lot of our invasive non-native plants that are, maybe trying to take over our yard, or even just the weeds that, annoy us, but aren't necessarily terribly invasive. You can get out there and clean those up, rip those up and, do whatever you'd like to do to get rid of those. If it is for sure, it's an invasive non-native, I would not suggest putting it in your compost bin because you don't know how dead it is. You don't want to really start growing it in your compost bin. But if there are just plain old weeds that you're familiar with, do you think you should be able to put those in the compost bin?
It depends on how large the weeds are. Small weeds, it's okay to compost. Larger, older weeds that have already flowered and set seeds, you really don't want to put in your
Right.
compost.
So the
You want to
freezes
put that in the
probably,
yard waste to be picked up by the trash man.
the seeds are protected from those freezes.
Yes.
So, but this is an easy time to pull them, clean them up, put them in your trash bag and get rid of them. That's one good way. It's almost like, the freezes came and they knocked down everything, but it's a good time to get rid of your unwanted plants to make more room for your wanted plants to be able to come back. So whack
Sure.
those
And if you
weeds.
have a problem on your property with invasive plants, now's a good time, and it's a little bit cooler also, to
Right.
go out there and dig up those air potato tubers or any other invasive plants. Many of them are frozen, which makes them a little bit more obvious. I know I
Mm-hmm.
could look out in my yard and I could tell exactly where the weeds are because they're really, really brown or black. Some of them actually froze, so they're a little bit easier to find right now.
Yeah. We have lots of, we even have a video on this one that I've been sharing occasionally on the Facebook page about pruning your crepe myrtles. There's some crepe myrtles that are continuously pruned this way every year in an area that I have to walk by every day and look at them because, it doesn't matter that I work here, they do what they want. So, and they were already starting that new growth and that new growth got zapped too. Probably won't harm it'll get new growth again. What do we have against this very severe pruning of crepe myrtles? We call it hat racking. Um, some people call it crepe murder. And then people don't understand that. They're like, I've done it for years. It doesn't kill the tree. Why do you call it that? What do you have to say about that?
Well, generally it does. I mean, it doesn't necessarily kill the trees.
Quickly,
A
not
lot of
quickly.
people prune their crepe myrtles like this for many, many years in a row, and they continue to grow and come back. They don't flower the best when you maintain them this way. They found that if you prune them lightly and just cut off the previous year's seed heads and dead flowers, look through it, any dead branches, cut them off. Any branches that are crisscrossing and rubbing against each other, take off one or the other. And then, other than that, leave it alone. It's going to
Suckers
get
at
the
the
most
bottom.
flowers that way.
Right. What this does is over time, it shortens the life of the tree.
Hmm.
And why we see it done in communities or in commercial properties is because they're paying people to do it quickly and get it over with. So, do those people care that you have an 8-year crepe myrtle as compared to an 18-year crepe myrtle? Probably not. Um, but you in your yard, you can be more of a concierge caretaker of your crepe myrtle if you want it to last a long time. And plus, if you leave it alone and don't do this to it, if they had let the bottom stalks are beautiful. If they had let them grow and not have all those little gnarled pieces there, it would have been a beautiful winter tree with, great winter interest, even though it was naked, didn't have its leaves and flowers on it.
Yeah, there's a few crepe myrtles in my neighborhood, the white variety, I think Natchez, maybe,
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
that people did not maintain like this, and that variety will get huge. It'll get as tall as your house, and
Sure.
in the summer it is covered with white flowers. And
Mm-hmm.
when the wind blows, then the petals are coming off. It looks like it's snowing. It's a very attractive, very stunning front yard small to medium tree. If you have
But
your
it's
heart set
bigger.
on having a great big bonsai out in your front yard, and that's basically what it is,
Yeah.
you can do that, but just know that you don't have to manage it like this. They'll do
No. And
just
so
fine
you
if you
can
don't
get
do
a
this to them.
dwarf variety. Get a dwarf variety that says it'll be 15 feet. Count on it being 20, but don't get those old fashioned white ones and expect it to be small. It's not going to be
Sure,
small.
it's not going to stay small. They do have varieties now that are dwarf, and I think they only get maybe waist high, a
Oh,
couple
really?
feet tall. That's as big as they get. So match the variety with the amount of room that you have
Mm-hmm.
and match it that way.
No, so avoid that. But we were mentioning don't prune right now, but what about woody, like deciduous kind of trees? They always say winter is the time to do that.
Sure, now is a fine time of year to trim trees, and even if you're trimming crepe myrtles or any other woody large shrub or small tree like that, now is a good time of year to do it before it starts the new spring growth. So while it's still dormant, you can go ahead and prune them. Now is when the time of year when you're going to prune a lot of fruit trees, peaches, plums, nectarines, loquats, muscadine grapes, all of them, and they all get pruned differently. So
Right.
you want to look them up online, look up a University of Florida fact sheet for what you're growing, and see exactly how it's supposed to be pruned. But all of them you want to prune now before they start all their new spring growth.
But if it is a flowering, like you certainly, well, the azaleas are blooming now, but um, camellias they're pretty much already done blooming. But if you have spring blooming, spring flowering plants, you have to prune them before June 30th of the year, or you're not going to get your spring blooms.
Well, best time of year to prune those camellias and azaleas is right when they're totally done flowering.
Right. But no
Go
later
ahead and
than,
prune them then, get them cleaned
yes.
up, get them where you want them to be, and let them go for the rest of the year. Only do it once a year.
All right. So I put this in specifically for you. What about the vegetable garden? What do I do with the damaged plants? Maybe people have a garden out there and it got zapped. Also, what should they plant right now and how can they protect them from future cold weather events?
This time of year, you really shouldn't have a whole lot of damaged plants in the vegetable garden if you're growing what you should be growing at this time of year. Because here in Central Florida, we have warm season vegetables and cool season vegetables. So you grow the cool season vegetables during the winter. These are vegetables that are going to take cold weather much better. Anything for radishes, carrots, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, kohlrabi. There's a number of others. You want to
Lettuce.
plant them in the winter and they'll take the cold. If you were trying to plant warm season vegetables, if you had green beans and tomatoes and peppers and okra and things like that in your garden, they're dead. They don't take temperatures below 32. If it gets down to 31, they're dead and they're probably not coming back. Those you should have waited until very, very end of February, beginning of March to put outside.
Okay, so you can have them starting right now, but you want to keep them inside.
Sure, I always start my tomatoes and peppers right between Christmas and New Year's, but you start them in little pots and you put them outside when it's sunny and warm. When it's going to get cold at night, you bring them in. If it's going to be really cold for a few days, they come in the garage for a few days, and when it's warm, you put them back out. Or if you have a greenhouse, that's ideal for starting them in. Sunny window is going to work to a certain extent also. So starting those warm season vegetables is a great idea. Having them out in the garden unprotected when the temperatures are getting down to the upper 20s doesn't work out well.
Not a great idea. Okay. You began to mention your banana tree. We have a lot of interest right now in people wanting to grow more edibles in their yard, and tropical fruit really seems to be trending. But we're not in a tropical area, are we? So sometimes this happens, or almost every year this happens. I personally don't know very many people who are successful in obtaining a banana from a banana tree in our area, unless they're in a microclimate between two buildings on a lake, something like that. So
it depends a lot. I've seen them growing right next to a creek, underneath a lot of trees, which helps keep it warmer, up along a lake. Bananas like slightly wet soil, so they're going to like being near a body of water, and the body of water helps keep them warmer on a cold night. But yeah, a lot of people's bananas end up looking just like this picture here. All you could do is, after you're pretty sure we're not going to get any more freezes, generally middle of March, go out there and prune up and clean up all those brown leaves and cross your fingers and hope for the best. Because it all depends on exactly how cold each one of those plants got to determine whether it's going to come back or not. Most times they do.
yeah.
50% of the time or so, they don't come back. I have some that completely die, and then other ones that come back. So it's hit or
I know
miss.
we had people concerned in the virtual plant clinic when I was hosting it with Bernie, the master gardener, about mango trees. And we were thinking, oh, we don't know the fate of her mango tree.
Avocados are the same, and
Yeah,
there are varieties that take colder weather, but it all depends on exactly how cold they got in your yard. With any kind of fruit trees, the older it is, the colder the temperatures it can handle.
right.
So, for example, a little 1 year old new grapefruit tree might freeze and die in a freeze, but a great big older 20-year-old grapefruit tree might survive it, and probably would survive it much better.
Mhm. Okay, so to wrap it up, and I mean wrap up the program, not necessarily the puppy here. The don'ts that we talked about, what you don't want to do is water more frequently to bring the lawn or the landscape plants back. That's not what they need. That's not going to help them.
It's not going to fix anything.
No, don't fertilize. It's not the time to fertilize. Forcing that new growth is very sensitive to the next cold snap. And also new growth is closer to the core of the plant. So, it could actually get more into the heart of the plant and cause more damage as well. And when we're talking about herbaceous type plants, prune after the danger of freeze is past. What we want you to do is, it's the opportunity to clean up those weedy, unwanted plants, those invasive non-natives, or the weeds we just don't want to be there. You can prune those woody or deciduous tree-like plants. And the last thing is, we want you to embrace that Central Florida has a winter season. I hear a lot of people say, I didn't come to Florida to be cold. Well, once in a while, we're going to be a little bit cold, but you know what? The sun is shining. It's beautiful. I always say in Florida, we have 3 days of winter. We have winter in spurts. We have 3 days of winter, then it warms up. Then we may have another 3-day winter, and then it warms up. Then we may have another 3-day winter. And really the danger of that, we can't promise that that's going to stop probably till sometime the beginning of April. So thank you all very much. Thank you, Bill, for joining me on this Friday afternoon.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me.
And here again are our emails: LillyB, LILLYB at hernandocounty.us, and Dr. Lester is wlester@ufl.edu. Please feel free to email us, and I'll be having another class on Wednesday coming up about this, not that. I've done it before about suggestions to replace invasive non-native plants, to replace them either with natives or Florida-friendly plants. So I've done it before, so this is revisiting it. Gonna make some new plants and some new suggestions as well. And then I will be hosting the virtual plant clinic this Thursday because Dr. Lester is unavailable. As he told everyone yesterday, we're not mad at each other. We just are having different schedules. So we'll get back together for the virtual plant clinic in a couple of weeks, but be sure to watch us this coming Thursday. I'm going to be with Master Gardener Bernie again. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody.